coast to coast, it's your hosts, the Lombardi Leap and Mersey FB. This is Beyond the Frozen Tundra.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, the Lombardi Leap. And it's just me today, as Mercy had some prior arrangements here. So you get me. And today we are going to kind of take a look at the Packers roster. This is really kind of a setup episode. Next episode, we're gonna go in depth, take a look at the roster, where it's at, where it's going, kind of a thing. I want to take this episode here to really kind of talk about some stock up, stock down options throughout the year when it comes to some players. I mean, some players I'll kind of briefly skip over a little bit here. I mean, 'cause every season, players really do tell you who they are. Some players, they finish the year with leverage, their value rises, they earn trust, and then the organization is kind of like, okay, we got to figure out a way to keep this guy. And others, you're kind of like, is it worth it? Is it worth it to keep this guy? And we understand where the Packers are at. They're not rebuilding. They are stacked with young talent, and their window to win a Super Bowl is now. Some of these guys are on expiring contracts. They're going to need to get replaced. Some guys, maybe they'll try to bring back. I don't know. It's going to depend on the cap situation here for the Packers. So we're going to take a look first and foremost. I mean, this one's easy. Easiest room to kind of stock up on. Jordan Love, quarterback. He is your franchise quarterback. Like, that is clear. I think he played very extremely well. I think he was very underappreciated by the league this year specifically. He finished, I believe it was top 5 in just about every single positive metric that you can think of. Like, Jordan Love, unquestionable starter one. You have some questions now. Malik Willis is a free agent who I think stock up definitely has potential to go to Miami there. Jeff Halfley and that whole situation. Not going to be back with the Packers. That's clear. Packers have two options where we don't really know what we're going to see. I mean, Desmond Ridder was a former draft pick. Kyle McCord. Like, those are two kind of, okay, we'll see what fits here. Who's going to potentially be the backup? Running back is kind of an interesting thing. And the reason is running back is kind of an interesting scenario here because Josh Jacobs is due about $16 million. And the Packers have to ask a question of, is Josh Jacobs worth $16 million? Do you believe that he's worth almost $16 million going into next year? I believe it's closer to like 15. It's like 14.625 million. If you were to cut him in this offseason, the Packers would be looking at around $6 million in dead cap, and they'd create $8 million of base. I don't think Josh Jacobs had the greatest of year, but the question is do you believe that was because of the O-line, which we'll get into later, or you think Josh Jacobs is regressing? The running back room is such a weird situation because Emmanuel Wilson is a restricted free agent, but a free agent nonetheless. Chris Brooks, another restricted free agent. My guess is Chris Brooks gets brought back over Emmanuel Wilson. Emmanuel Wilson did show that he could take starter reps. Chris Brooks is more of a blocking running back, kind of like a modern day fullback is what I would like to call it. I think he stays. He did his job. I wouldn't really say there's any difference in his stock. If you can keep him cheap, keep him cheap. If not, replace him. Josh Jacobs is under contract. Josh Jacobs is the only healthy running back that's realistically under contract that was on the roster this year. Marshawn Lloyd, again, hasn't played. His stock is trending down, and it is falling off a cliff here, unfortunately. Like, there is talent there, but he just cannot get on the field at all whatsoever. And so if you're the Packers organization, you got to really ask yourself some questions here about what you're going to do. And they did bring in Damian Martinez. He was a 7th round pick by the Seattle Seahawks. I was kind of surprised that he was a free agent. I do think there's a lot to like there for Damian Martinez. I think he could take the Emmanuel Wilson spot here moving forward. So I definitely think Damian Martinez's stock is going up. Whereas, like, Emmanuel Wilson's stock's going out the door because I don't think he's going to be re-signed. You don't really have a healthy running back behind Josh Jacobs because Marshawn Lloyd just can't stay healthy, and that's going to raise questions for the draft here, too. That is kind of a sneaky need for the Packers, just given, like I mentioned, Josh Jacobs, 28 years old, going to be due almost $15 million this year, and then in 2027, he's going to be due almost $17 million. I don't know if you want to pay that much for a running back. It's gonna be real interesting to see that because that could throw people for a loop this coming draft, just because of how well he played, and it's going to depend on whether or not you believe it's Josh Jacobs trending downwards or the offensive line as a whole was trending downwards. The running back room gonna need some work here. The room that I was most impressed with offensively, I mean, outside of Jordan Love being Jordan Love, the wide receiver room. I know some of you are probably thinking, but what about the Bears game? What happened there? I'll get into that. I believe that was more offensive line related. Other than that, though, I think this wide receiver room is definitely trending in the right direction, and I'll kind of rank them in who I believe is the main priority here. I mean, Christian Watson. Oh my goodness, like night and day. You can tell he is clear bona fide number one wide receiver. His athleticism, the matchup nightmare that he is, his stock is way up here. Like this offense is revolves around Christian Watson, and having Christian Watson out there makes this offense so much better. My wide receiver two moving forward, Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden has shown time and time again. I know he dropped a couple here and there towards the end of the season, barely, but Matthew Golden, especially during that Bears game, showed why he was drafted in the first round by us. I think he's going to easily slide into that number two role going into next year with Romeo Dobbs, who a fan favorite for a lot of people. He is reliable. I don't think the Packers are going to pay him. He is going to go get paid somewhere else. So that's why his stock is down for us. He wasn't as consistent as I think that people would realize he is. I think Matthew Golden was more consistent. I think Christian Watson was more consistent. And so if I'm ranking these wide receivers in levels of importance here and who definitely up their stock for the Packers, Christian Watson 1, Christian Watson 1, Matthew Golden 2. Night and day, no questions asked. Romeo Dobbs did up his stock, especially versus the Bears, but he upped his stock for another team. He's going to get paid here. He is, I know people don't like hearing this, but he is replaceable. Davion Williams, developmental. I mean, you like what you saw every once in a while. It was a shame he got hurt. Bo Melton, they'll probably be back in this room too as well from being a cornerback. I think they just put him as a cornerback, to keep him on the roster. He's a great special teams gunner. That's one of the most undervalued and underappreciated parts of the game, specifically when it comes to special teams. And Bo Melton is honestly, he's one of the best special teams gunners out there, clearly. And so his stock, I think he proved his value there. He should be back. He's an ERFA. No questions asked. You bring him back. Dontavian Wicks, I don't really think he hurt or helped his stock. I would say that he didn't have as many drop issues as the season prior, but he is on a cheap contract. I expect kind of maybe him and Jaden Reed to compete for that slot spot as both of them go into next year. Jaden Reed, I think that did help his stock a little bit just because of the Packers were a bit hurting at the slot position when he did go down for a time, but I don't think his stock was hurt as much because like Dontavian Wicks was a little bit inconsistent there from time to time. Tight end room. Man, if there's anybody here who we should appreciate and love and absolutely missed this entire year, I think you all know who it was. It was Tucker Kraft. I cannot say this again, how much Tucker Kraft was missed in this offense. His yards after catch ability, the reliability that was there, the big play, his blocking ability, like there was just so much that the Packers missed at tight end, and they tried to replace it as much as they could with Josh Wiley and John Fitzpatrick, but those guys aren't the same. Those guys aren't Tucker Kraft, and it's not fair to compare those guys to Tucker Kraft at all whatsoever. Luke Musgrave, it's such a hard thing because he's not the greatest blocker. He's been put in a position that, like, it just wasn't his strong suit. He's basically a Jimmy Graham, and the Packers were having him blocked because, again, Tucker Kraft went down. It's so hard to, it's not so hard. It's really easy to criticize Luke Musgrave. I'm not necessarily sure he was used properly. I think this is one of those things where Luke Musgrave's stock did go down. You expected him to step up. He had a couple moments, but nothing that Luke Musgrave did really made you feel better about yourself, better about your tight end room, about him being a second round pick. Unfortunately, like there just wasn't much there. Again, he had 24 receptions on 31 targets, didn't have a touchdown. At the moment, he only has one touchdown in his entire career. It's just it's unfortunate, like, how depleted this tight end room is. And this is really a sneaky need for the Packers here. Just with John Fitzpatrick getting injured, his stock's down, he's replaceable. Josh Wiley, again, he's a restricted free agent, but like he's fine at tight end 3. He's okay. So, I mean, there's really not much of a change in his overall stock. I don't think you're, like, clamoring to resign him outside of a veteran minimum deal. Like, the only bona fide star you have in that room is by far and away Tucker Kraft, who deserves the ball just about every down. So the Packers do have some questions here that they really need to ask themselves. What's their tight end room gonna look like? How is it gonna be affected here moving forward? I wouldn't be shocked if they drafted one, or I think this could be a room where maybe there's a couple cut candidates out there and they sign one of those guys. By far and away, this is a really the sneakiest of needs for the Packers as they enter the draft. This next room, I am going to be extremely critical of for good reason. Because they are protecting the quarterback. Offensive line. And boy, oh boy, do I have a lot to say about this offensive line. I have seen people defend Rasheed Walker for a long, long time. And I have been one of the biggest anti Rasheed Walkers. Guess that's how I'll say it. I've been his one of his biggest haters. Like easily. I don't think Rasheed Walker is good. I think he's going to get grossly overpaid. I think the entire season, when you go look back, especially if you watch like the Broncos game, his deficiencies were severely masked by Matt LaFleur's scheme. Matt LaFleur gave Rasheed Walker chips from tight ends, from wide receivers, from running backs. He gave him so much help throughout the year. And just how deficient he was at the position really came to a head during the Bears game. It was honestly like he completely forgot how to play football in that Bears game. I think that somebody's going to overpay for him, like grossly, because the NFL does have an is deficient on offensive line talent, and obviously I use the term talent loosely here. Somebody is going to overpay him. Like, realistically, that's just what somebody's gonna overpay him for, because we saw this at the trade deadline. Like, people were overpaying for offensive linemen left and right, or trying to. Packers got a good deal when they traded for Kennard. I mean, Darian Kennard, I don't really think I think towards the end of the year, he kind of his stock went down a little bit because you didn't see him get played as much. I think specifically here, that kind of shows how the Packers felt about Darian Kennard, was they really just used him as an extra lineman. And then on top of it, Jordan Morgan ended up getting the snaps at right tackle. I know I just have been trash talking Rasheed Walker here. I think that like the two hardest positions, or the two worst positions on this offensive line this year, were by far and away left tackle and center. And Elton Jenkins, unfortunately, is not going to be on this roster. Elton Jenkins did not seem really engaged. He unfortunately got injured, and he's making way too much money. And he's clearly been regressing. A lot of people are like, well, I don't understand why they moved him from left guard to center. Honestly, his play was regressing starting last year. You could tell he lost a step, and that really he looked so uncomfortable at center. Like, it was really, really bad. I jokingly said last year, like, we can't get any worse than Josh Myers. It turns out that I was wrong, and I probably jinxed it, because Elton Jenkins was worse than Josh Myers, which was unfortunate because I had some hope, but I was like, I really wanted them to draft a center last year. I know they had Jacob Monk on the roster. We'll get into him here a little bit. Elton Jenkins, stock down and out. I'm going to be shocked if he doesn't get cut. Like, he's going to be playing for someone else next year, just like Rasheed Walker. Another guy who I don't think the Packers are going to sign back unless it's for like a real minimum contract is Sean Ryan. A lot of people were like, oh, Sean Ryan actually stepped in and played well. Oh, man. Looking back at it, I disagree. He was better than really, really bad. He was better than Jenkins, which isn't saying much. Like, he was tolerable, and I don't even wanna say, like I don't even feel like that's the right word because, again, like, I'm looking at this through the lens of how did Elton Jenkins perform? And Elton Jenkins did not perform well at all. Elton Jenkins was abysmal, absolutely abysmal. I think Sean Ryan hurt his stock. I think he's gonna try and go back to guard in free agency. I don't think it's gonna work out there. He looked gassed at times. He was getting bullied a bit. It's I think there are better depth guys the Packers have on the roster, and that is John Williams, who they just drafted, as well as Travis Glover. I think those two at interior, they provide you stable depth there. I liked what I saw from Travis Glover. I liked what I heard about John Williams. People are going to argue, okay, maybe John Williams is a center. I don't know. I don't think he is. I think he should stay at guard. Go there. Him and Travis Guard are your backups this year or this coming season. I think that's the way to go. With Rasheed Walker heading out the door, with Sean Ryan headed out the door, I mean, Jordan Morgan's stock gone way, way up. Way, way up. I liked what I saw in preseason from Jordan Morgan. I thought he should have been at tackle the entire year. And I think that if Zach Tom did not get hurt during that Bears game, I think you would have had Jordan Morgan start at left tackle, and I think you would have had, obviously, Zach Tom start at right tackle. Zach Tom, Jordan Morgan, both those stocks. I mean, Zach Tom's easily the cornerstone piece of this offensive line. Jordan Morgan, I think, is going to become a cornerstone piece of this offensive line, specifically at left tackle here as we go into next year. Anthony Belton, again, you could tell he was a left tackle who switched to the right side and switched from tackle to guard. Like, I think people are going to be like, okay, Anthony Belton didn't have the greatest season, but I like what I saw there. I think there's a lot of potential. I'm okay with Anthony Belton. I was a big Anthony Belton of him coming out of the draft. I think he's going to be really, really good at guard. I think his best position is guard here. This leaves the elephant in the room that I'm going to talk about here, and that is Aaron Banks. I see a lot of people saying, okay, Aaron Banks should get cut, which I understand. I understand where you're coming from. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. I think Aaron Banks did get beat at times. I'm just going to say that, and Aaron Banks wasn't that durable at times. Aaron Banks' issues were not necessarily on Aaron Banks. A lot of them were on Rasheed Walker or the center. Aaron Banks, time and time again, would bail because he had to go prevent Jordan Love from getting blindsided because Rasheed Walker couldn't maintain his block. I think that's why people are looking at what Aaron Banks did. They're like, oh, this is not worth the money. This is not worth the money. I don't think the Packers necessarily see that. You're already losing Sean Ryan, Elton Jenkins, Rasheed Walker there. I think Aaron Banks is going to look better going into next year. I kept his stock as neutral. I know a lot of people would say stock down. I kept his stock as neutral because I think you need to see Aaron Banks with a competent left tackle. Jacob Monk, unfortunately, got hurt when we needed him most, and so that forced Lecitus Smith as a center. I think Jacob Monk's stock is down because he cannot stay healthy like this year. I think he had a chance to be the backup center. He could have potentially even been the center once Elton Jenkins went down, but unfortunately, he just couldn't stay healthy. And I don't really see the Packers kind of banking on his development there. Even though I like Jacob Monk coming out, I thought he needed around 2 to 3 seasons to develop. But unfortunately, I just don't think that you can wait that long given your Super Bowl window. Brent Banks is kind of another guy on the practice squad. He's a tackle. He's kind of in that Zach Tom blend. I really like him. I like what I saw there. I think his stock is up. Obviously, he put on the roster for a little bit, got cut, got claimed by Tennessee, got cut there, came back to Green Bay. He's been here ever since. I wouldn't be shocked if he makes the roster as the swing tackle next year. I think that he definitely has the potential there to do that. Defensive line. I'm going to get this out of the way real quick. Micah Parsons is amazing. He was sorely missed. His stock is way, way up. He's worth every penny, 6 days a week and twice on Sunday. You pay the man. You did pay the man. He's worth every penny. Kingsley Enagbare, I'm actually down on him. I think he's gone. I wasn't impressed with his overall season. I think he had flashes, but I don't think he had flashes that are worth keeping. And overall, I was not impressed with his season. I think that you can easily get his production out of Colin Oliver. I really liked what I saw from Baron Sorrell. I think those two guys are going to easily replace JJ Enigbare's production there. Another guy, too, obviously, Rashawn Gary. If you can trade him, trade him. Once Micah Parsons went down, it really it was glaring that Rashawn Gary wasn't anywhere near the player he was. It's going to be interesting to see if the Packers can get something for him. I'm hoping they do. I'd take even a 7th or perfect world, I'd get a fifth. Really amazing world, I'd get a third, but I doubt that's going to happen. Lucas Van Ness, I liked what I saw. I think when he got a competent defensive line coach, you really saw him start to take shape. It's unfortunate that he dealt with injuries. I think Covington has done a lot of good work there. I think he's going to get his fifth-year option picked up. He may even get an extension, just so that way the Packers can save some money there, as well as keep him under contract for longer. I think he's going to pair very nicely with Micah Parsons, who Lucas Van Ness is Micah Parsons' best friend here, which is just kind of funny. I am a big fan. I was a big doubter of LVN coming into this year, but I think he's shown a lot of good flashes here, and I highly expect him to take the next step, and I think his stock is going up. The defensive line room, I mean, the only two guys who I really have stock up on are Devontae Wyatt, because he was clearly missed when he went down, and Warren Brinson. I liked what I saw from Warren Brinson. He came out of Georgia as more of a run defender, and he showed himself as a pass rusher here. I think you just need to kind of work on that anchor a little bit more, and I think Warren Brinson is going to outplay his draft stock as a 6th-round pick. Stackhouse, inconsistent anchor, was pretty much inactive a lot, and when he did play, that anchor was not good, especially versus the run. Colby Wooden, stock down. Again, he is on my roster bubble here moving forward. He may not even be on the team next year. Linebackers is interesting. Edgerrin Cooper, start of the year, I would have said his stock is way, way up. I would say his stock is up. I think that he has the makings to be an all-pro linebacker, definitely. Isaiah McDuffie and Tyrone Hopper, I don't think they really like Tyrone Hopper. I'd say his stock went down a little bit because I don't think he did really much when he was gifted snaps here towards the end of the season to up his stock. I mean, I could see if like no change overall. I think Isaiah McDuffie, Tyrone Hopper, kind of neutral gain here. Didn't really hurt, didn't really help. Was kind of what I expected. I mean, Tyrone Hopper maybe hurt his stock a little bit. Quay Walker is interesting because Quay Walker is really good at certain things, but the one thing he's not good at is coverage. And I really don't know where his stock is. It's all over the place because the Packers organization like him a lot more than if you go by PFF grades, PFF does. And I like certain things that Quay Walker does, and then there's certain things that Quay Walker does. I'm like, what are you doing, man? You gotta be better than that. So, I mean, if I had to grade Quay Walker, I would say it's neutral. It's hit or miss. Like, it really is with him. I mean, if I'm saying hit or miss, you could even say that his stock is down a little bit. I could see him coming back. It's just gonna depend on the money here, kind of a thing. Let's get into the secondary, because I know everybody loves this. I think the Packers have one of the best safety rooms, one of the deepest safety rooms in the NFL. Xavier McKinney, awesome. Evan Williams, awesome. Nolan Dapo is unfortunate. I think he's a good player. It's just unfortunate he's in such a deep safety room that he's having a hard time getting on the field. Jalen Simpson, I like what I saw when he's not playing boundary corner. I think he's definitely a safety, and I think he's going to take the place of Zane Anderson, who unfortunately got hurt. His stock is down. He's out. Going to be a 30-year-old safety. I like this safety room. This safety room is really, really good. Like, it really is. I mean, Javon Bullard can play in there, and he plays well at safety, too. This leads me to the other elephant in this room, the cornerback room. I can say this without batting an eye. I think the cornerback room was terrible. I think the cornerback room was one of the worst rooms in the NFL, if not the worst room in the NFL. I had been a big Carrington Valentine advocate for a while, but Carrington Valentine's stock down, man. Like, yeah, it just couldn't tackle. And it's been years. Coming out of Kentucky, like, one of the qualms with him was he has to learn. He doesn't always tackle. Doesn't always tackle. He doesn't always tackle. I love the vibe he brings. I love the personality. He's okay in coverage. He just gets technically lazy in coverage. But, I mean, the way he finished, like, when given the opportunity to start with Nate Hobbs going down, who I'll get into here shortly, man, the Packers have to address this room. Whoever the defensive coordinator is going to be is going to have to put in some work here. And that goes to Nate Hobbs. Nate Hobbs, I think you can easily say here, Nate Hobbs' stock is down. His stock is down because he didn't really know what he was doing. He looked lost, and then he couldn't stay healthy, which, again, he had some issue. He was one of those players that they signed him. They paid him a lot of money. I don't think he's stock up at all. I don't even think he's stock neutral. With that being said, though, I have hope in Nate Hobbs because he was playing well at boundary in camp until he hurt his knee. I think him hurting his knee really, really set back and just domino affected his season. I'm expecting Nate Hobbs to come back from this down year and really, really show up next year because I don't necessarily think Keyshawn Nixon is going to be on the roster, and I don't think he should be on the roster. I don't think Keyshawn Nixon is a good cornerback. I don't think he really has any redeemable aspects of a good cornerback. People will look at, look at all the passes defended. I don't care about that. Like, I don't. Like, that to me just means he's getting targeted way more than he should be. And that was evidence too. Like, they were targeting him and they kept targeting him and he gave up some big plays. Bears game 2 again. Just it looked like he quit on some plays. There's just so much wrong with Keyshawn Nixon. And then afterwards, the way he's talking about his contract a little bit, I don't think Keyshawn Nixon is helping this cornerback. I actually think he's hurting it. I think he's hurting the mentality as well of this cornerback room. Maybe he stays, but $5 million is $5 million. And when you're backed up against the wall, and if you cut Gary, if you cut Jenkins, I know they just cut Trayvon Diggs as well. Packers will be around $10 million. You can get another $5 million for cutting Keyshawn Nixon, and you could get somebody like Cam Taylor-Britt. You could get somebody, I think, like maybe Drew Phillips is a free agent. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to talk about that in a different episode here. But I think there are other guys you can get to replace him who are going to perform night and day better than Keyshawn. But overall, this cornerback room needs some work. It needs some tender love and care, specifically from the draft. We talked about all these rooms here. Obviously, the blight on the entire team has been special teams. Brandon McManus, stock down, easily stock down. Like, some of it too is, I think, how they handled his injury earlier in the year. I don't think the team handled that properly. I think they could have done better on that. But he still, like, he was missing stuff towards the end of the year. Maybe he was never fully healthy. That could have been very possible. I don't know for sure. But his performance at the end of the year for a kicker, not good at all whatsoever. And that leaves us with the other kicker we have on the roster, because we do have another kicker, the substitute teacher, Lucas Havrisik. I think his stock is up. I think his stock is up because of how Brandon McManus played. I think his stock is up because of how he played during those 3 games until he was benched and then had to go into MetLife Stadium and kick, which is one of the worst stadiums to have to kick in, especially after having especially after having sat for the couple of games he did, because they wanted to convince us that Brandon McManus was healthy, and he wasn't. I think there's a real good shot here that Havrisik is going to win this job over Brandon McManus, and that's like a couple $1 million that the Packers can save there. Matt Orzik, I mean, what do you do? There were some process issues there. Long snapper, I think he stays. I think it was more coaching than it was anything else. Like, he's fine. Flat stock, nothing really changed there. Daniel Whelan, though, is one of the most underappreciated punters in the league. I think he was snubbed of a Pro Bowl. Like, wheeling and dealing, the way he's punting, my goodness, that dude can kick a football. Oh my goodness. I mean, Daniel Whelan earned his contract extension. I think I definitely think he's an all-pro punter. If you disagree with me, too bad. You're wrong. I'm right. I'll defend Whelan. I'll defend Whelan to the end here. I think the Packers do have some big decisions here coming forward, which we'll talk about as we kind of go into the roster a little bit more in depth on Wednesday. This episode's coming out on Friday, but the Packers really, this offseason, it's about fixing some holes here to solidify your status and win that Super Bowl. And the Packers have the ability to do that. We know what rooms need some work. I think the offensive line room is going to be better overall. I think that stock is going to be up. I think if the Packers spend some money on a cornerback, or at least spend some draft picks, which I imagine they would, I think that room will take a step forward. I think overall, this Packers team is trending in the upwards direction. If it wasn't for injuries, I think we'd be having a little bit of a different story here. But overall, I do firmly believe that this Packers team is trending upwards. And I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for what the Packers are going to do. I'm excited because we have a lot to talk about in the offseason, free agency, we'll go into further depth with the holes in the roster. Like I said, like there's a lot of football, even though we don't get to watch the Packers play football, unfortunately. Well, that is all, folks, I have for today. Till next time.
To Packers fans coast to coast, thanks for going beyond the frozen tundra. We appreciate you tuning in. And as always, go Pack Go!